and we're going to talk. Lisa's going to chair a session looking at the intersection between fashion and technology, which for those of you that are innovators in the space gives you a sense of where retail, technology and branding is going. Lisa, it's over to you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I would like to welcome to the stage my esteemed panelists. So, Charli Cohen, who is CEO and founder of Metaverse fashion brand Restless. We have Caroline Bauer, who's the lead of the digital creation team at Hugo Boss. We have Nova Lorraine, editor-in-chief of Nova magazine. We have Ida Kymmer, who's the Director of Global Affairs at Metaverse platform Journée. And finally, we have Josephine Miller, who's an XR art director and co-founder of Oraar Studio from London. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies. We've got a very intimate audience with us today. And I'm thrilled to have an all-female panel on the stage with me. It's sort of interesting walking around Ditex over the last few days and noticing that there's actually not a huge amount of women here compared to a lot of the other conferences that we go to in Europe. So I'm thrilled to have representation here on the stage. Just to kick things off, to give a little bit of context, my role at Fashion Innovation Agency is to look at how emerging technologies can be applied within fashion and retail. So we look at technologies that haven't yet been commercialized by the industry. We tend to look at things that may be 3 to 5 years away. But with the pace of change, what's interesting to see is a lot of those technologies we've been talking about for the last 10 years are now being adopted by these ladies within their organizations. And so I want to start by kind of talking about the excitement that technology is providing and the innovations that each of you are working on within your businesses. We've got quite an array here of different tools being used. So I'm going to start off, actually, I'm looking at you, Ida. I'd love for you to kind of expand on what you're doing at Journée with immersive e-com.
Big topic with a lot of learning as well. But to put it simply, we have created a technology that allows us to create immersive worlds that are available directly in the browser. So think of your normal.com, take any fashion brand you like, .com, and then you step into an immersive experience instead of looking at a flat 2D image or reading text. So that's what we do. And this we have taken onwards, evolving e-commerce into what we now call eCommerce. We need to differentiate the two somehow, so immersive commerce. And we're already seeing incredible ROIs with something like 50% higher conversion rates and plus 10% in basket volumes.
Amazing. I've tried out that platform for myself, and I have to say it's really fun to be able to walk around and have that real life interaction with friends, colleagues, and others within the community. And I'm now going to look at you, Caroline, because you're working in a slightly different realm within digital fashion. Would you like to kind of explain to the audience what your role is and how you're using technology within Hugo Boss?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So the idea of Hugo Boss is that we really transform the product development itself so that it gets a digital layer and that prototyping is happening digitally instead of physical to a dedicated degree, let's say. And that's what the team is doing. So we're trying to enable every designer, every pattern maker to work with 3D simulation software, make decisions digitally, and create 3D assets for the development process. And in an ideal case, it goes up then to solutions like Ida said, that we can then make these assets more usable and give customers a greater experience.
Yeah, so in terms of that customer side of things, it enables customers as well to go in and see those digital assets in the fitting room online and to see how they might look on those digital avatars.
Yeah, so in an ideal case, one day we are able to provide the customer for every product this experience. But for this, we have to fix also kind of digital supply chain to make this more efficient. But I think in general, from an industry perspective or looking from a brand perspective, the customer will want to have it one day. So we have to get prepared to make this possible.
Amazing. So Charli, you've had a really interesting journey, haven't you? Because you kind of stepped from traditional fashion design and then moved into metaverse fashion. So do you want to tell me a little bit about how that happened and what you've noticed from your experience?
Sure. So although I worked in traditional fashion for a long time, got into immersive tech quite early on, around sort of 2014, 2015, working with you guys, and progressively moved more and more into the realm of digital physical crossover. And within the brand, we were working our way around the issue of interoperability, where you'd have a physical garment and you'd be able to access versions of that garment in multiple different game and social spaces. And in 2020, we started working out how to back that with blockchain and tokenize these assets and make it a little bit easier to manage the interoperability side. And ended up moving away from the brand into creating infrastructure that any creator or brand could use to build game-ready assets that were interoperable across traditional games and also sort of Web3 open metaverse, and that were tokenized in a way that allowed for lifetime royalties to be paid to the artists and designers who are making them.
And is there a crossover between the customers who buy the physical garments and the digital pieces, or are they quite separate?
I'd say that, like with the Venn diagram, the gamers in the middle, probably the community that fall across both sides. I think there's still definitely a real division between a luxury fashion consumer and a Web3 native community that's starting to be bridged a little bit over the last couple of years. But I think gaming, which is where there is real value to your digital identity and a real use case for spending money on digital assets, is what really brings the two together.
Cool. And Nova, your background's actually in traditional fashion as well, isn't it? But now you're embracing technology as well. So how are you using those tools within your company?
Yeah, thank you for that. I started off with traditional fashion, being educated at the Fashion Institute of Technology, and moving into couture, so what I call the fine art of fashion. But prior to fashion, my background started in clinical psychology, so I bring that into everything that I do. So right now it's using emerging technology as a distribution tool, but starting with storytelling, incorporating concepts of human behavior, well-being, and fusing that with fashion. So introducing fashion as fine art and embedding that in storytelling, and taking that consumer into various mediums as an experience in terms of how they can utilize fashion in their daily lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, what you're doing, Josephine, I guess the root of that is storytelling as well. And within AR marketing, I'd love to hear, what you're doing with the brands that you're engaging with, and how that's all going.
Yeah, so in Oraar Studio, we bring imaginations to life through extended reality, and we predominantly work using social AR, so on platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, and then we also apply web AR, so you're able to bring them into companies and brands like applications and websites too. And in terms of storytelling, we really like to work directly with the clients within the conceptualization stage, because a lot of the clients we work with are not familiar with what augmented reality, extended reality is actually capable of. So we kind of, have our brainstorming sessions and work with them along that, and just work in terms of from even the sound design, the 3D modeling. There's so much that is involved with that, and those iterations. It's a lot of fun.
Experiential marketing plays a crucial role, doesn't it, in shaping consumer behaviour? What have you seen, either through your own practice, your own projects, or just kind of like out there in the wild? What kind of really has resonated with you in terms of like a successful experiential marketing campaign? And what were the kind of drivers behind it? I shout out first, whoever wants to take it.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I think digital, I think, Charli may have mentioned that here on stage. I think that's really going to be the anchor as it relates to bringing the consumer into this more immersive and virtual environment. And so as it relates to experiential marketing, imagine walking into your favorite retail store, being greeted by a hologram, your concierge, and within a couple clicks, the concierge has uploaded your personal data, where it then can guide you through the store to items that would best suit what you're looking while you're there and what you're looking to buy. And then maybe in the back of the store, you have a augmented reality fashion show happening of the avatars wearing the garments that are actually hanging in real life on the racks in the store. So that's an example of what I see happening as it relates to the future of retail as one use case as it relates to experiential marketing. But I think it's really about who is that customer and how can you impact them with story, utilizing the best tool at that moment in time that addresses the pain point of the customer. So it could be with not augmented reality, but it could be with artificial intelligence, AI, for personalization, or AR in terms of a visual experience.
Yeah, cool. So that's kind of like very much like that location-based experience. I don't know, what you're providing to those brands is where they're kind of like stepping into the web and they're kind of augmenting things away from like the traditional 2D doomless scrolling. Have you got any sort of like campaigns that you've worked on that have like been really successful that you'd kind of like to share with the panel and with the audience?
Yeah, I was thinking about one specifically when you initiated the question. I mean, I have a lot to share, so catch me afterwards. But there's one specific one that I think is very interesting in terms of also culturally, socially, and where do we want to take the world and where do we want to take internet. And it was a campaign that we did together with H&M Music, and we chose the Philippines. So a market where the consumers do not have the cash to go and see their favorite pop stars. So we did a concert in a virtual world, accessible in any browser. You don't need to download anything. You don't need a fancy anything. Stream YouTube, you can experience the concert. And that was incredibly powerful because if you think of a brand like H&M, the core is democratization. And here we have democratization of access to a brand experience. And that blows my mind a little bit. And of course, it was loved. It was a I always get this wrong, I always want to say K-pop, P-pop band, BYGO, always get those letters wrong as well. But the interesting things we saw happening was that we were selling physical merch in connection to this concert. It was sold out after an hour. We got the participants, they were willing to do a 6-minute survey afterwards to tell us what they actually thought. And they were saying things like, I could never have experienced this in my life if you guys wouldn't have done a concert like this. And we also got numbers out of it, like 98 Net Promoter Score, which I didn't think was possible. So understanding what the brand is actually about, like in the heart, and then using these technologies and going crazy creatively and creating an accessible experience.
Is there any like limitation on how many people can have the shared experience at the same time? Like, what's the capacity within those?
So technically there is no limitation, but experientially it is. We tested for our first concert that we did was with Coldplay. It was for BMW in 2021. And then we basically internally just crowded the space with AI avatars, and we capped it on when it became uncomfortable. So that's what you would do.
Josephine, are there any kind of like moments that you kind of think were particularly successful, like in terms of experiential marketing, that you wanted to speak about?
Well, one of my favorite examples out there is actually, Balenciaga, when they did the video games where they use photogrammetry, which is a way to capture like physical garments and people, and then they brought it into Unreal Engine. I thought that was such a brilliant way to kind of gamify the whole experience and almost make these like character personas through these models. And I think the space we're getting to now is just the crossover with gaming and digital fashion and physical fashion. I just think it's so exciting to see all these large brands experimenting within this,
I'd love to bring Charli into the conversation here, because you did that amazing activation a number of years ago with Pokemon and Selfridges, where you actually had location-based experience and then it expanded into an online game.
Yeah, so I think, and really kind of taking like both sets of reasoning here, like the physical experience to be able to educate the customers coming through Selfridges on how to fully experience this physical collection, gave us a way to connect to people and bring them into this game, get them playing around with AR, get them customizing their own avatars, when, that would never have been in their remit prior to that experience. And then on the flip side, we had this immersive world, Electric City, where you could virtually participate in this kind of collaborative world that we built with Pokemon. You could buy the physical collection, you could buy a digital collection. As soon as you bought the digital collection, it was interoperable with an avatar platform called Ready Player Me, so you could take it straight into games. And that, it really democratized the experience for a much broader range of customers that aren't living in London, aren't able to come through Selfridges, and also could buy the same collection for a fraction of the price digitally versus the physical collection. So I think being able to hit both sides of the demographic and also have the education piece in there has been really successful for us.
Just with the rise of virtual fashion shows and digital runways, how do you all envisage the future of the catwalk?
It shouldn't be a catwalk. If you can do anything, if you can do absolutely, everybody is sick of catwalks in the physical world. The last thing anybody wants to do is watch a digital version of that. So I think, the Balenciaga game is a great example. As an alternative to a catwalk show, you can be immersed in the inspiration behind a collection, the world of the brand, and you can engage in a much more kind of gamified, law-based way versus watching a fashion show.
It's so true. I got really excited during the pandemic, because I thought, this is changing now. This is our moment to, just reimagine how things have always been done in terms of, those traditional fashion business models, in terms of seasonality, flying people all over the world to the shows. So those tools existed, people were using them creatively, and it felt like a moment, and now we've gone back in time. Any thoughts on that from the other panelists?
Well, I definitely want to touch on the catwalk. So I don't get excited about watching a catwalk digitally. I will agree there. But I do feel that there's an opportunity to elevate the physical experience. I believe that as we move further into the digital age, we're going to cling on to these real-life experiences and things that make us feel more human. So any activation in the physical, just like we're all here today, is going to be amplified in importance. So imagine being able to go to a catwalk and the inspiration, let's say, is the jungle. And you step into the room and all around you, there's trees, there's sounds, there's animals moving by you as you're sitting there in the seat. And as the models are walking down the runway, they're actually walking through this path that was created in the jungle. So I feel like there's so much opportunity there to layer on immersive experiences in the real world, and then to personalize it as well, where you could take it a step further with AI, where potentially I might be seeing the yellow dress and you're seeing the red dress because that's what I prefer to see. So I think there's so many opportunities to elevate the physical experience with these immersive technologies. So I'm looking forward to the future catwalk.
Caroline, Hugo Boss did something quite interesting, didn't they, at Milan Fashion Week?
Yes, so it's 3 weeks ago in Milan Fashion Week we launched our new collection, and we did it not so crazy as you mentioned, but we did a first step and brought our, let's say, VIPs and guests there closer to the digital fashion, so there was a kind of digital experience with a mirror, so you were able to wear the first digital Boss suit and test it and made some activations, and you still can do it on TikTok. So everyone can now use it and test it. You can collect some points, and then you can get a Roblox skin at the end. So feel free, everyone, to test it. And it was quite interesting on the event that nearly everyone tried it. So everyone wanted to try the digital suit and have a look on it. So it was a very interesting experience from our side. But I would say, yeah, it's quite a long journey to go to have the complete fashion show digital, because I would say at the moment it's kind of the same effort. So it's still very complicated to bring a whole collection on a realistic life, and then it's different. Is it more the artificial way or inspirational way, or is it really about a kind of twin of the product? So I think this is very interesting from a brand perspective, how to use all these tools, because you still have to sell something. So,
yeah, I agree with that. And when you're looking at higher end fashion, we would agree that the hyperrealism is super important. And we're just now touching on that. And with AI, we're going to be able to facilitate bringing hyperrealistic clothing to life, where we can appreciate the digital version of it and then create those items faster. Because, you know, a year ago or even 6 months ago, it took painstakingly a lot of hours to recreate those garments and put them on avatars that weren't averse when you actually looked at the avatar. So I feel like you have the extreme Roblox sort of Lego version, and then you have the hyper-realistic version where people actually want to purchase that item that they're going to be physically wearing.
Yeah, it's so true. It's something that we've noticed when we've kind of been like setting up projects, and we've been looking to collaborate with designers to take digital fashion into mixed reality or virtual reality, that a lot of those brands don't have that skill set and they're not creating in that way at the moment. So we've been using techniques like volumetric capture to recreate things, 3D moving assets, 3D assets. So you're kind of replicating what exists in real life, but then you've got endless possibilities where you can then place that into any kind of experience. Like you can go wild as you know, as much as you want to. And I think, you know, certainly when you think about the way that you shop and the mindset that you're in, I think it's really kind of compelling to place yourself into those different worlds and those different scenes, because it's, you know, the way that you kind of want to envisage how you might be wearing that bikini on a beach or the puffer jacket in the Arctic, let's say, which is something we kind of did with a Pangaea project a number of years ago. Just in terms of, you know, the pace of change at the moment within fashion and within technology, I'm interested to know from all of you, how do you kind of keep up to date with what's happening so that you can stay ahead of the curve?
I mean, I think from a fashion design perspective, you know, obviously we are running into, or have been for a long time, huge sustainability issues around the expectation of newness. So, you know, being able to provide digital fashion, digital experiences will start to help with that when the value of digital fashion starts to grow from where it is right now. But in the interim, it's really about how you can continue to reinvent the same product through the way that you're styling it, engaging in socials, bringing in content creators to put their own spin on these things. And I think, you know, the brands that are kind of keeping a manageable balance sheet right now, they're really good at having a core product that is their bread and butter and being able to reinvent that through the lens of other creators across different platforms.
Anyone else?
I was going to just add as well, you know, with social media now, we have just so much inspiration constantly on like Reels, TikTok, everything. And I feel like this is completely changing the scope of, you know, the like styles and what people are inspired by and those like subcultures as well. And I think it's so important to just constantly experiment, but don't get too immersed all the time in the algorithm and that culture, and just like take a step back and figure out what you want to do and how you want to use these tools, because there's not technically one right way of using these tools. You can just we have the internet, we have YouTube, we can just self-teach ourselves so many different skills within this age. And like, I don't come from a fashion background, I actually come from a fine art background, but I was able to like self-teach myself through YouTube how to actually create digital garments like in Clo 3D, and like went through that as well. And like, I have a small bit of like pattern knowledge from college, but it's such a fun space, and a lot of younger creators as well. I think there's a lot of more up-and-coming people who have that opportunity to show themselves online too. Yeah.
I'll go. So I have a podcast called AI for Creatives, and so I have to stay up to date to report on what's new in the space, and it's about art, humanity, and technology and where they intersect. And so I read a lot, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, attending conferences globally also help, because as I'm on panels, as I'm walking through, I'm able to see, you know, what's coming and hear from different perspectives as well. And I'm really passionate about sharing what I learn with others and providing that information out. So again, yes, I'll agree, you can get extremely lost and overwhelmed with all the social media feeds, but I'll zoom in on certain newsletters, podcasts, and I'll just read articles that are being put out by the major news feeds, in addition to what I'm doing when I'm traveling and speaking.
Yeah, one of the things we really believe in is collaboration. So when we don't have that expertise, we reach out to others. And so like, for the last number of years, we've been kind of collaborating with the film industry, like visual effects and gaming companies, because they've been pioneering in using some of those tools, and they can educate us, and they are really excited to kind of look at fashion as a new vertical to kind of bring the fashion content to life. So I think for us at Fashion Innovation Agency, that's something that we found really exciting. And I think what we're also really kind of reassured by is like this next generation of designers coming through, particularly like at London College of Fashion, of which we are a part of, is there's like, you know, this generation who are like really, really excited and, you know, getting hands-on with these software packages and educating themselves through YouTube videos, online tutorials, and, you know, applying that within their practice. I mean, Caroline, you're working right at the bleeding edge of digital fashion, and you've got a growing team there at Hugo Boss. How are you finding that sort of plugging the gap with the skills that are required?
Yeah, so there are different layers. On the one side, you have to get designers and technical persons coming from classical fashion background get trained on all this new technology. So this is one challenge. But we as a team, we have to figure out what is the right solution. And that's quite a challenge for a brand, because as brand, you get contacted kind of every week with a new solution, and it's really a lot of them. So it's very hard sometimes to figure out, is it interesting to have a deeper look on it or not? So, and also what you mentioned with game industry, that's something really interesting. And I think fashion industry has to get much more open for other influences, and especially gaming might be a, I don't know, new liaison for the next 20 years or longer. And I think it's the industry, the classical part has to adapt this. I see the luxury brands are already doing it somehow, but in the mass market, I would say it's still new, and there are some early adopters. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things happening at the same time. You have now to figure out which technology is the right one.
Yes, it's an interesting time, isn't it? And we were having this conversation just beforehand about, you know, how many brands you can go to who have those digital assets and how to populate those sort of virtual experiences. And I know, Ida, you've been doing work with, you know, like sports brands and beauty brands. Maybe fashion brands kind of are still catching up.
Yeah, I would agree that fashion is maybe not the industry that is on the forefront of this. We work with everything from automotive to governments and just keeps going. And I would say that automotive are the ones that are the most advanced, and it's not fashion.
Totally can agree. So I think that all the fashion companies, they have to make up their minds. When is it a marketing activity, what you all said, and when is it more a mass production of assets, let's say, and where they want to invest, because it's a big transformation, and the idea where I believe in you should invest is to make a real transformation in the product development to gain the advantages for all of these initiatives. But I'm not sure if it's still a very long process to have this mindset change.
Can I add one more thing? If I look at other industries, for example, automotive, I would be really excited the day that fashion decides to integrate these technologies on all layers, meaning, like automotive, digital twins to ensure that there's no waste in the production. Other technologies to make sure that we don't get as many returns that we do today. Measuring people's body in a different way, so we don't have to produce so much. There's so many steps, and I feel that when we speak about these technologies in fashion, currently it's mainly about self-expression and about how you show yourself on social media. But for me, it's really going to see change, and for sustainability as well, when we are learning to integrate the whole way.
I 100% agree, and I think what's exciting is that there are independent brands, House of Nova, a little plug, that are seeing the benefits of this integration with using the technology for on-demand production for the purpose of sustainability, also for personalization, using what we have and as it relates to AI in terms of integrating body metrics and on anonymous avatars. So we have the 3D models, we have the AI for data metrics, for measurements, for fittings. We have AR for virtual try-ons. And then we have, as we were talking earlier, we have facilities that are turning into micro factories where they can now take on one-offs, where me as a consumer can purchase through a platform like Charli's and then have something delivered to my door that was personalized to me. And so I think the light at the end of the tunnel is that we have the smaller entities that are doing it, but then there are companies that are larger legacy brands that have innovation teams that are also testing on the side, and they're able to play without having to break the model.
I personally would love to see that the industry is going in this direction, like that it's a bit less mass production and more this kind of way. But I think it will take time, and what you said, the industry is very slow in adapting new technology. So I'm happy that it's already started, and a lot of people are coming now from gaming industry into fashion, though that's quite great in the first big step.
I think we're out of time now, but that was kind of really nice way to sort of sum things up there at the end. Like, we're all going in the right direction. We're all embracing these new tools that are available to us. I just want to say thank you so much, panelists, for joining me on stage today. Can everybody give them a round of applause, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.